Well, I just appreciate you guys all for being, number one, willing to jump on here and participate. It's community oriented, so having people that are here to participate and elevate and collaborate together really is the mission. I mean, what we want to do is share stories of positivity and silver linings as we're coming out of 2020 and moving forward. The world's kind of adapting, and that's the whole intention of the Open We Stand movement. And the reason we do these interviews is to kind of highlight some of the stories of people that are making impacts or have positive stories and messaging. So today we've got Bill Johnston. He's going to be our guest interviewee. He's going to share a little bit of his perspective in his world. But before we get to Bill, I'd love to have everybody that's on here go ahead and just introduce themselves, where they're at, and what they do, if that's okay. So we'll start with let's start with Rachel.
Hi, everybody. Rachel Makool from GoDaddy. I'm in San Francisco. Have been with GoDaddy for 5 years. I am a community professional. Have been doing community for a really long time, and therefore know Bill Johnston. He and I have known each other for quite a long time. Really thrilled to have him as a guest because honestly, for as long as I've done community, Bill is one of what I consider the top experts in community building. So super happy to have him here with us.
Thank you, Rachel.
Awesome. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Eric Sims. I'm currently located in Durham, North Carolina, and I am a student in the Masters of Analytics program at NC State University, and recently spoke with some people from GoDaddy about the things that they're doing with site building and marketing and all of that. And so I've worked with small business owners. I once upon a time owned a laundromat and some other small business things I've kind of dabbled in. And so some of the small business, some of the website of things, and now moving into analytics. And so I wanted to, learn more about the kind of this Open We Stand, and particularly the community topic was really interesting to me.
Well, that's fantastic. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Angela, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Angela Blake. I'm also from GoDaddy. Sorry, I'm not on camera. Maybe next time. I'm a community manager specifically with GoDaddy Pro, and I'm pretty new to community management. I've been at GoDaddy for 6 years, and most of that was in various teams on various care teams. So I come here with a lot of experience in care, not a lot of experience in community, although they're kind of pretty related. So I'm looking to learn from this. Nice to meet you all.
Angela.
Thanks for having at least a profile picture up and joining us. It's a good picture. Jonathan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Jonathan. I also am from GoDaddy. I'm based in New York City. So I'm in the city right now, and I work mostly with the brand side of things on everything from social engagement strategy to execution, and basically a lot of stuff having to do with community management. And then over the past year, since I had a little bit of a restructure, and Rachel and community and social have been working closer together at GoDaddy. It was a real natural fit that Rachel and I start working more together, and especially with this community forum. And I'm like all of you, I love listening to these and having every single week getting to hear from another incredible person that you've brought on, Adam. And there really is so much value here. So thank you, Bill, so much for doing this today. I can't wait to hear what you guys think.
Awesome. And I'm just the moderator today. My name is Adam Griggs. I'm out of Columbus, Ohio. I am the founder of CLARATI. And I'm just excited to be able to share and participate and provide some positive momentum going out of this year. So Bill, with no further ado, I would love to hear where you're at, what you've got going on, and a little background to what led you to creating your company.
Absolutely. So it's really a pleasure to be here. Everyone, again, Bill Johnston, founder and self-titled Chief Community Officer of Structure3C. Structure for design and architecture, and the 3 C's: community, collaboration, and crowd. And perhaps we'll unpack that in a bit if helpful. As Rachel mentioned, and she's a dear friend and has been a longtime supporter and oftentimes mentor of mine on my career journey. So credit where credit is due. I feel like Rachel is kind of one of the rocks in in an industry that can be kind of volatile, frankly. But I got, well, let me start at the beginning and not kind of go too far back or belabor the origin story, if you will. I was actually talking to Adam and pre-gaming a little bit, talking about my son's new obsession with the Flash TV show on Netflix, because there's like a bazillion seasons of it, right? And he's really into superheroes right now, but like all the twists and turns and origin stories and things getting rewritten are getting a little bewildering. I feel like I need to map it out with a whiteboard. So I'll try to keep mine as succinct as possible. So I grew up in Kentucky in a really small town called Litchfield, right? And that was sort of my community boot camp. It was a very tight-knit community. My dad was in banking. And so, you know, there was always sort of this interrelationship between community and the small businesses in the community. Particularly, you know, I saw it through the lens of banking. And so I've always sort of had entrepreneurial leanings, but never had really gotten a chance to experiment and actually indulge them until a few years ago. I have a fine arts degree, which I'm frankly not using except for the occasional, you know, spray painting pieces, as you see behind me. Graduated from college, and the internet sort of exploded. Like literally, I saw a TV show about Mosaic like a week before I graduated with my art degree, right? So I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do, but I have an art degree. So I went into various flavors of design, got my big break in 1999 with a company called Tech Republic, which was a large community site for IT professionals. And it was amazing. I mean, we went from 0 to 2 million members in less than 2 years. We went through several rounds of funding. We were finally acquired by the Gartner Group. Tech Republic has since gone on to be acquired by CNET and is now part of CBS Interactive. But that was sort of my first big break with online communities. And I really saw the communities from the perspective of almost like a global network, right? Like networks are really the substrate underneath which communities are built, right? And to be able to see things like, you know, someone struggling with a problem at the time with like Windows NT, which if you're not in IT, just know that's like an archaic sort of operating system. And to have someone struggling with an issue and then to have the other two people in the world who had the answer be able to connect and help this person solve the problem, like that was an amazing thing. And that's really where the value of communities clicked for me, that there's essentially in a network, hypothetically, the distance between any two people or any two pieces of information is effectively 0, right? So when we build quality communities, right, that are purposeful and with intention, right, you literally have kind of everything you need to be successful at your fingertips. And you know, the unfortunate flip side of that is for networks like Facebook, because of, you know, in some cases conflicting purposes, you know, you can't fulfill like that sort of platonic perfect model of community, if you will. And so, anyways, I obviously am a big fan of community. I feel like it's a practice that I get to learn every day. You know, there's a data element to it. There's a technology element to it. There is obviously human relationship component to it. And, you know, I really love it. And so from Tech Republic, I went on to hold senior positions at Autodesk, which is a design software company, and Dell, which is a large computer and technology company that I'm sure everybody's heard of. And about 5 years ago, I was in my second tour of duty at Autodesk, and I saw a couple of things happening. One, I was seeing big companies, frankly, overinvest in social media, like dumping tens of millions of dollars annually into standing up groups, and then having Facebook continuously change the rules and, you know, essentially making you pay to address those groups and engage with your communities that you were building on Facebook. And conversely, I saw this sort of movement back to more contextual and meaningful online interactions, right? And I'm painting with broad strokes here, admittedly, but I saw this movement back to sort of smaller, more bespoke communities by certain brands, including Autodesk. So around moving from things like customer support to things like support and use and mastery of product and support in sort of a longer term career journey. So that was really interesting to me. And I thought, you know, more people are going to need help figuring out how to do this. I had always described my dream job as essentially doing what I was doing at Autodesk, but for like 7 companies at the same time, right? To fully indulge my ADHD. And so, you know, February 5 years ago, I decided to go for it and launch Structure3C. And it was terrifying. You know, my wife was supportive, but obviously on pins and needles. And it was really, you know, it was really kind of a leap of faith. But within the first 90 days, I did a lot of networking with former peers and colleagues and landed my first gig at Intuit, helping them stand up a small, you know, small business community, and we were off and running. And it's been a lot of fun since then. I can't say there aren't days that are frustrating and anxiety producing, but I feel like it's sort of stress and anxiety of my own making, right? Like that's what I love about running a small business. Like at the end of the day, like any problem I have to fully own, but any success I can fully own, right? And celebrate. And so it's sort of that yin and yang of you know, the stress and overhead plus the accomplishment I really enjoy. So I feel like I've been talking for a long time, so I'm gonna take a breath and take a drink of water here.
Awesome. I love the background. Obviously, they gave us some pretty good context. There's some things in there that I really want to just kind of point out first and foremost. Your background is phenomenal, and the companies that you've worked with is outstanding. But when you made the decision to jump and start your own business, I mean, it is terrifying, and it's awesome that you were able to say that with conviction, because we can tell that that's true. You know, you're coming from mega corporations and you've had a lot of success. Taking an online platform to 2 million members is insane. That's fantastic in itself. But I love that you're able to share with us that starting your own journey was terrifying, but you made the decision to do that. And I feel like that there's probably more to it as far as your community and connections that allowed you to have a little bit of confidence in making that jump.
For sure.
And then the other thing is just your passion for community as it stands. I mean, it's such a fantastic thing when you talk about community, because community is not just about the human connection, but it's the availability and the possibility in the human connection, right? We can all go sit down and have coffee and not talk. And sometimes it's very valuable to just be in the presence of others. But then when you have the exchange of conversation and perspectives, it gets so much more powerful. And what you said was the distance between those two parties is you know, so short in a community that's true and genuine. It's fantastic. I'm homeschooling my kids, and one of the first things I tell them when they get frustrated is it's okay not to know it all. There's 2 types of people that are successful in life. It's those with knowledge and those that know how to get knowledge. And if you're just willing to connect with people and understand that there are alternative perspectives and knowledge that you can get, I mean, that's powerful in itself. So I just love that that's your passion and that's your driving factor to create these communities that are safe havens, especially inside mega corporations where that can be very difficult, especially coming from the higher ups. You know, when you try to instill the community and you're the person that's leading the company, oftentimes people alienate themselves or they think there's ulterior motives. But when you bring somebody like you and Bill, and you've got intention on building a safe community and platform for these people, it kind of circumvents that issue. So I'd love to kind of hear more about your journey in creating that, and then maybe your perspective in 2020 with the evolution of you know, distance and getting on these online communities.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot to dig into there, and I appreciated your reflections back. You know, it was sound and insightful. So I guess the first thing is, you know, it may seem counterintuitive that large companies embrace, you know, any sort of community building beyond the sort of superficial and transactional. the reason I like to fight that battle or tilt that windmill is I feel like they're not the only catalyst for change, but they can be such a tremendous catalyst for change, right? And it's an almost inevitable direction that everything's going. Like power is, you know, definitely and directionally going to the consumer, the customer, right? Knowledge and any power a company lords over consumers or customers, you know, is not going to stay secret anymore, right? It's not, you can't hoard knowledge from a market anymore and exploit those inefficiencies, at least not for very long, right? So it's an inevitability that companies need to embrace to a certain degree. And so I love fighting those fights because I feel like if I do my job well, everybody wins, right? You have a more resilient and respectful and purposeful company where you're engaging. You have better informed and healthier in almost every way customers and customer relationships, and you're building value and creating value over time, right? So I love tackling those problems. You know, to your point about looking at all of this through the lens of COVID and the restrictions, you know, it's been, and I'm not telling anyone, like this is a shared global experience, right? Like this is, I can't think of a more impactful shared global experience we've all had, you know, in real time, right? I'd love, you know, I'd love to hear examples of others because I think this phenomenon, like just looking at it clinically, is kind of fascinating, and it's, you know, 99% terrible and 1%, I think, an opportunity to really understand how we can thrive through digital networks, right? Because that's going to be the primary means of connection for most of us, at least through, experts are thinking, you know, next summer or fall, right? So it's a tremendous, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to figure out how we prioritize the human over the tech, right? And really, you know, try to be intentional about these exercises, be intentional about the time we're spending on screens, and intentional about how we use everyone's time collectively. Like for me, like I feel really guilty talking this much, knowing there are 6, 7 other like great and profound minds like connected in this little network that we have for 30 minutes today, right? I feel really honored that you guys are willing to listen to me, right? And I think it's going to take almost like a new take on digital literacy for us to, you know, really get our heads around the opportunity and thrive moving forward. And I also think, you know, in the other extreme end, and I don't mean to sound shrill, but like I think the scrutiny around things like Facebook, right, is warranted, and it's where kind of we, from a society, from potentially a regulatory perspective, need to spend some more time. Because if you think about it, right, if our connections are primarily digital, and you have businesses or networks like Facebook that have no qualms at all in algorithmically, you know, sort of shaping those interactions, what you see, when you see it, how you might be, you know, manipulated in unique ways just because they know a lot about you socially and psychologically, you know, we kind of need to get a handle on that, right? And so that's just one of, frankly, a whole pile of reasons when I'm doing community engagements and helping organizations build out a community ecosystem. Social media is always a factor, but I really try not to do a ton, if any, investment in Facebook as part of that ecosystem development. You know, and then, oh gosh, back to the whole COVID thing. I mean, I think the other thing to keep in mind, and something I need to keep reminding myself, is to a certain degree, everybody is in a state of crisis and grief, and they're going to respond in sort of unique and unexpected ways. And so just as a sort of digital citizen, like I try to be as empathetic as I possibly can. And like, it's not like anybody has like deep and endless wells of this right now, right? Patience or empathy. But I really try to be, and I also try to think about what that means in a community setting. And in some ways it presents an opportunity like this group, right? You know, could you have done Open We Stand as successfully 2 years ago? Was there a need for it? Would this have been local, you know, coffee meetups or something else? Who knows? Maybe. But like right now, this is a great form factor. It's clearly sort of purposeful. The intention is, you know, positivity and like kind of, I assume, I'm paraphrasing, but like making sure everybody has a smile and feels good when they're ringing off, which I think is a fantastic payoff for an investment of 30 or so minutes, right? So it's taking advantage of things like this, you know, now and learning from them so that when things get back to the new normal, we know what the right mix of in-person, online, and how that all connects into the different community ecosystems that we're participating in.
Yeah, no, I can agree more with you on your perspectives. One of the things I was thinking when you were talking there was that there's a difference between perspective, perception, and purpose. You know, the perception that we get often is coming from social media, and depending on the feed, it can really affect our personality and our energy for the day. Perspective is always differing, right? We all have different lives, we have different things going on, so our perspectives oftentimes are muddled with that perception of the online community where maybe the news is just degrading or negative all the time. And that's why these community groups are just so fantastic, because it allows you to get purpose. You know, I don't want to have to go and search for an hour online to try to find something positive. I don't want to have to go and purposely, you know, look for that to try to change Facebook's algorithms or my news feeds or whatever, because it doesn't sell and it's not going to work. But participating in a group like this and having somebody like you on, Bill, allows me the purpose to go and find the silver linings, the 1% you said, you know, of this year's outcome for something that's better and moving forward. And I think communities are a great way to do that. And I love what Rachel and the team have put together here, because everything that's shared it is enlightening and empowering, but there's a lot of practical information in there too that are keeping businesses open. And that's one of the most powerful things I think I've seen this year coming out of this community is that there's practical applications people are putting into place to either keep their businesses open, or if they need to pivot, change, and evolve so that they can survive. So that's just one of the things that was coming across my mind when I was listening to you speak. And the other is something you mentioned last time we talked. It was tech as a tool to be used by us, not the other way around. You know, that's
right.
And you were so right on that. So.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna,
go ahead, sorry.
Bill, I'm gonna just jump in. First of all, like, wow, all of what you said. And a lot of times people who build communities, especially tech communities, forget that it's people first. And then the technology is just a way for people to come together. So a lot of companies, and I'm not saying big companies, a lot of people think that, you know, the whole notion, if you build it, they will come. And there has to be, to your point, Adam, there has to be a purpose. There has to be something that somebody gets from it that helps them to feel connected, helps them to get more information. And a lot of people, especially small business people, they're one-off businesses, they get lonely, right? They want to connect with other people, and they want to connect with people like them that they can learn from and grow from, and then potentially grow friendships and have, you know people for, like, I've known Bill for a long time. And, you know, so there's a lot of need, especially right now. I think I'm going to actually poke holes in your 1%, because I think there's a lot more that's going to come out of this year that's going to be positive. And it's sometimes hard to pick those pieces out when people are dealing with such challenges. But, you know, in my life, I know when I've been through really challenging times, I can look back and I go, oh my God, that was so good that happened to me, because this other thing came about that I never would have imagined could have been. And actually, I mean, to share, like, that's how I got into community. I have a similar background as Bill, come from a really tiny town. My dad was a minister. So talk about, like, you know, being part of a community. And like my entire career up until becoming what I consider, you know, call myself a community professional, really was about community and connections, but I didn't really kind of connect the dots around that. And, you know, I'm grateful that my personal life and my work life kind of combined into something that I'm really passionate about doing. And regardless of, you know, what company, I mean, I'm happy that GoDaddy is very community oriented as a company, which not all companies are. But I think more importantly, you know, looking at to Bill's point about Facebook and kind of social channels, and all of us needing to be really careful about what's in our feeds and how that can lead us down into paths of thought process, or even judgments about others, when actuality there's more to every story. And so Bill, I loved your point about being empathetic right now. And it is difficult. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that come at us that can make us feel really negative and feel like, you know, there's nothing positive out there. But then there's also, like, I see a lot of positive stories. And, you know, the thing that pumps me up every day is listening to small business people, like, really being so experimental and taking on this challenge and pivoting their businesses and trying new things. And I think as far as the future of online communities, it's just opened a lot more doors up where people realize, like, wow, we can actually do this not only in our local area, we can do this, and not only in the United States, but we can have a global business. Like, we can appeal to people all over the world. And that's super exciting. And not everybody wants that, but for the people that can have seen that door open, that's super exciting to meet
Agreed.
people and get to know them all over the world. And then one last note, like, the thing that I actually really love about social media is, like, I have a dog, and I'm a dog nut, as Jonathan knows. And, you know, I've gotten to know people all over the world in connection with my dog breed. And my dog's going to be 8 tomorrow. And it's like 8 years before that, I didn't have that. And I love it. If I went to multiple places all over the world today, I could go meet these people in person and have that friendship and a relationship with them over a dog breed. So there are
That's
pluses
fantastic.
there are pluses about social media.
But I also, and I do this with such a wonderful, valuable half hour for me. And it was really, so much of it stuck out, but working in engagement right now, like, I am spending all of my time on social media, like billable hours on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And it's so hard right now. It really is. It's emotionally exhausting. It's so, because it's my job and I have to do it and I have to be there, but it's also like, I don't want to know what's going on, or at least, like, for the next hour, I just don't want to, I don't want to know what your hot take is. I don't want it, but it's there. And it's part of what makes the internet so special, but also so volatile, is that the information's there and it's just being fed to you, whether you want it or not. And it gets so, it's so interesting to think about community on social, because it's different for every single platform. And, you know, Facebook, you know, they just want to change the rules every hour. And then you've got places like TikTok, where you have a thriving community of people on TikTok, huge, millions and millions of people, and it's positive. I heard someone say the other day that the only social media profile they will look at anymore is TikTok, because it's positive. And it was so interesting to me, because I'm sitting here going, that's what's going to make this app succeed. That's what's going to like, it's blue ocean territory right now. Like, this app is doing something that others aren't able to do, and they just have positivity. You can go and really see, to Rachel's point, you can see really great dog content. You can get political stuff, you can see it, but it's not being served to you right away. And as we've built this community on on LinkedIn, specifically the one we've built on LinkedIn, we've been able to recognize so many of those. You know, LinkedIn's also kind of a great place because you get a lot of news, but it's very, they do a great job of making it relevant. Like, this is news about business, about small businesses. But we want so much more for our community, or we want to be able to do so much more with this community that we've built, but we have to operate under the umbrella of what LinkedIn allows us to do. So it's so interesting to, you know, to listen to you speak so, you know, so many points you made about the value of community, not just to a company, but to the community members. Like, a lot of times I think I want so badly sometimes when we're on these calls to just be like, I don't have numbers for you. You just have to believe that these people love that they're a part of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not
Right.
about what the ROI of this is. It's about, you are opening the door for people and you're giving them the opportunity to connect with each other. You're taking them out of the rain. Like, you know, you don't need to charge for it. It's great. So it's really incredible to hear you talk about the future of online communities. And for me, more than anything, it's helped me to feel a lot more secure in the resilience of this community that we've built. And, you know, whatever we do with it on LinkedIn or however, you know, however it evolves, it just makes me think more about how we're just going to have to kind of roll with it and really embrace whatever is going to come our way. Because I'm totally with you on that. Whatever this new normal is going to be, digital is going to be front and center for everything, for absolutely everything, including meeting new people. Like, I can't tell you how, you know, I have a group of friends that will, you know, video chat and, you know, play Mario Kart or something every now and then. And I'll meet some of their roommates, and I've never met these people before in person, but 7 months later, I'm like texting them and calling them and asking about, you know, happy birthday, stuff like that. And it's like, a year ago, I don't think I could have ever said that I would have been able to build a relationship as valuable as I have with some of these people. And specifically knowing there was also no opportunity to meet. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't going to be one of those, oh, I can't wait to see you in a month. Like, I have no idea when I'll see you. But it just, it speaks to a need that people have. I think whether you're a small business owner or whatever, like, there is a fundamental human need to be in contact with each other and to be able to leverage it in a way that has value to businesses, I think is marvelous. So it'll be cool to see what, I'm gonna use the word cool. It'll be cool to see what happens in the next few months, but I'm very excited. This made me very excited for that, which I can't say I was feeling prior to this. So thank you.
And I have to, thanks, Jonathan. I mean, a lot of great thinking and reflection there. Just to be clear, like, I'm not anti-social media. And in fact, like, what you said illustrates when it's done well, like, the value is creativity, it's sparking connections and serendipity. The problem, and I'll just continue to pick on Facebook because they're the primary culprit. The problem is most platforms and apps respect that ethereal connection and let you decide like the sort of life cycle of it. Facebook is just trying to grab your graph and every bit of data they can about you. And it just gets not fun, right? Very quickly. Yeah. Whereas new platforms like TikTok is amazing, like so much great content, so many great creators on there. Even LinkedIn, like I still, like, as old fashioned sometimes as LinkedIn feels, like I spend like so much time on here, right? Because I'm still getting value. I'm experimenting with things like Clubhouse, which has a lot of promise, but because of the decisions they made around the interface, it's just, I mean, it's literally like walking around in a dynamite factory with a lit match, because they're just like, they're doing no community management and throwing groups of people together without any context. And it's
the future is bright. The future is bright.
Yeah. I mean, it's like literally like, let's, accelerate the worst possible, interactions we possibly can. But like something out of, like once it really explodes, like something out of just voice-based serendipitous chat will pop up that will be quality, I think. So it's just, there's so much experimentation now and all of those things can be facets of like a community, right? And you as a person, you think about all the roles you have, all the identities that you have, all the facets you present, out to reality, and you have as many times X communities that you belong to. So it's not, it's not like a community, like one single community to rule them all, right? Like you have so many tendrils and so many different communities and ecosystems.
Yeah. It's interesting to think of these social platforms as the tool we are using to build these communities, or to say, if we want to build a community on Facebook, we have to use the Facebook tools to do it. So it's just incredible to think about how those are going, how those shape what we have available to us, and how new technology is going to come out that's going to open, doors that we don't even know. We can't even see them yet. They might be closed. We literally don't even see them yet. It's wild. Wow.
Yep. It's a fun time.
Jonathan just brought up a really interesting point. I know we're over time, but platforms, creating communities on certain platforms has a lot of rules or, potentially algorithms. That's why a lot of companies have now gone back to creating their own platforms where they can create their own rules for building communities, that we don't have to live in a world of unknown as to like, how are they going to use our customers' data? What are they going to do with this thing? How are they going to change the platform tomorrow? And Bill and I have been around a long time to see companies have their own communities, companies get away from that. And now like a huge trend of companies coming back and creating their own communities. And I'm actually really thrilled with that because again, we can create our own set of rules. We can help to create, engaging activities for our customers. And it's really, really interesting, the blend of using like a community and social together. So, God, we could all talk for hours on this subject. Yeah.
I know I could.
Well, I appreciate all the comments and the insight. I think that this was a very valuable, meetup today. So Bill, thank you for sharing your perspectives and sharing a little bit of insight into your passion into creating communities that can connect and elevate and collaborate with intention without ulterior motives. Is there anything that you want to leave the group with maybe before we close this out, or anything that's coming up for you?
No, just I really enjoyed the session. I mean, it actually gave me some energy back, frankly, and some positivity. So I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I think we're in the midst of this grand experiment right now, right? Like that's potentially a healthy way to look at it. And they're kind of, and especially with communities, there are kind of no wrong answers right now. Experiment with, some intention and some safety, but experiment and ultimately see what works for you. I mean, one of the first things I tell my clients is the right answers to figuring out the strategy. Like when we do a big community strategy project, like they're sitting right here. Like I'm coming in, I'll bring my experience and, my perspective in, but like ultimately the answers surface from the folks who are hosting the community. So just like, as you're thinking about your own strategies and your own community engagement, just have some confidence and faith that, trust your instincts, right? You definitely have the capacity to figure it out. And at the end of the day, it's like, we love to overcomplicate things, but like it's the most human and natural thing in the world to build relationships and communicate, right?
Yeah. Nope, I definitely agree with you, and I appreciate it. If anybody wants to give any last minute thoughts to Bill or kudos, I'm going to open it up.
I highly recommend, if you're looking at building a community, to talk to Bill Johnson, who might be able to help you think through the strategy and all of those aspects of community. So thanks so much, Bill. Really good seeing you.
Thank you, Rachel, and awesome to see you.
Awesome. With that, we'll close it out. I appreciate you guys all being here today. You guys stay safe and stay positive.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.